and welcome to the Florida Aviation Network. My name is Lori Bradner. We are thrilled to have you here today as we broadcast live from the 42nd Annual Sun and Fun right here in Lakeland, Florida. Please come see us today. The weather could not be better. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have such a wonderful program to bring you today, and I am just honored and so pleased and have had such a wonderful pre-briefing. It is truly my honor to introduce Mr. Gary Powers. Gary, thank you for being here today. This is just extraordinary to have you here. And one of the things that brings you here today is there is a movie that recently was just released. I'm proud to say I saw it.
Good. Called
Bridge of Spies. Extraordinary film. And I understand, Mr. Powers, Gary, that you've got some ties to that movie. Would you like to share with our Florida Aviation Network audience your ties to that movie?
Well, certainly. Thank you very much, Lori. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate being a guest on your show today.
Fabulous.
As you said, my name is Gary Powers. I'm actually Gary Powers Jr. Dad was the U-2 pilot, shot down May 1st, 1960 over the former Soviet Union in what is now known as the U-2 incident. As a result of that incident, he's in the history books. And as a result of being in the history books, Steven Spielberg decided last year to produce this movie called The Bridge of Spies. When we first found out about the movie, it was very important for the Powers family to reach out and establish contact and express our concerns.
Okay.
If they based the information on my father on the misinformation of the time period, then they could paint him in a negative light. If they based it off the declassified information that's come out the last 55 plus years, then they'd be painting him as a hero to our country. The U-2 incident and my father was very controversial at the time as to what he did or didn't do, what he should or shouldn't have done, whether it was sabotage, whether it was a conspiracy, whether it was intentional that the U-2 incident happened or not. But it's now been shown that it was an actual shoot down of the airplane by the near miss of a Soviet SA-2 missile. There was no conspiracy, there was no flame out, it was just one of those things that over time has been shown.
Right.
But in regards to the movie, it came out last year. It's won an Oscar.
Yes.
My father is portrayed by Austin Stoll.
Right.
And then Mark Reliance is portraying Rudolph Abel. And these two men are the spies that are exchanged at the Gunnaker Bridge at the end of the movie. So this whole movie talks about Rudolph Abel, how he was caught, Donovan, the attorney who brokered the exchange between my father and Abel, as well as defended Abel at his trial in New York during the 1950s.
Wow. Now, how did you, I have to ask because I'm very interested, although obviously the story is unbelievable. How much were you involved in the process of the movie with Steven Spielberg and your family? We have to ask, and I'm sure our audience is interested. Once they talked to you, did you walk through the process?
Yes.
Were you consultants on the movie? Did they come to you, Gary, and show you clips and say, what do you think?
Sure.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
No
Because
problem.
none of us, how many of us actually get to do that? That's extraordinary.
It was a privilege and an honor to be able to work on this film. I was actually a technical consultant. And the way that this came about is that, I had to reach out and try to contact them to let them know our concerns. The same time I was reaching out to them, they were trying to reach out to me. So it was very nice to know that they were looking for me to get in touch with. So I eventually talked with Mark Platt, the producer. He and I chatted on or about July 14th of 2014. I guess he liked what I had to say. He hired me on as a consultant. I basically was assigned to answer questions, lots and lots of questions. I provided audio tapes of my father talking about his experiences so that they could learn firsthand from the horse's mouth the shoot down, the imprisonment, the exchange, the interrogations, what my father went through, according to his own words. I was able to provide photographs, family photographs, that they then photoshopped and put their actors' faces on the bodies of the images. I also provided introductions to two individuals, Ed Moody, who was one of the FBI agents who captured Rudolph Abel, and Joe Murphy. Joe Murphy was the gentleman that identified my father at the bridge. So those are the type of introductions I did. And then in addition, as I'm reading through my contract, it says that they didn't have to listen to me. And I'm thinking, oh no,
right?
I'm going to do
that
this,
was in the fine print.
And then at the very bottom, it said if I didn't like the end result, I couldn't sue. And I'm thinking, oh no, what am I going to do? So I felt it was much more important to be a part of this, try to convey our concerns, try to get them to do the right thing, than to walk away and have nothing to do with it.
Right.
And it was a wonderful experience. I was able to meet and talk with Mr. Spielberg. He asked me tons of questions. I sat right behind him in a director's chair as he was producing and directing, watched him in action. It was amazing to see how he did it. Was able to meet the actor who portrayed my father, sat down over a few beers and talked shop.
Yeah.
Talked to Tom Hanks all for about 5 minutes in passing. Great experience, wonderful people, very down to earth,
Really?
very normal people. It's just they're so famous, everybody wants a piece of them. So
Right.
they're very, very hard to get in touch with. But
Okay.
the experience overall was wonderful. The movie itself, historically accurate in the big picture.
I was going to ask, what did you think? What is your opinion now that it's
Oh, yeah.
it's out? What do you think?
No, historically accurate.
Okay.
The big picture, the fear, the paranoia, the duck and cover drills, all the stuff that was going on in the 50s and 60s against the Soviets and the Americans is accurately portrayed. But you do have to remember, the details of each scene, it's Hollywood. They do dramatic effect. They do embellishing. They do
Okay.
artistic liberties. So
Right.
while the big picture is accurate, the details of every scene, not so much.
Okay. But that they need that to sell
Correct.
the movies. Absolutely. I have a question, Gary. I'm interested. Obviously, you're very involved with the movie, but going back to real life, how did your father's experience impact you as a child? Did you understand it as a child?
Right.
How did it impact you growing up?
I was not yet born when my
Right.
father was shot down.
Right.
I was born in 1965, 2.5 years after he came home from prison.
Okay.
So for me, as a kid growing up in this family, it was normal. I was aware that he had been shot down, imprisoned, and exchanged for a Soviet spy. But as a
Okay.
kid, 10 years old or so, I thought everybody's dad had been through this.
It was a normal thing.
A normal thing.
Right. Okay.
That perception changed on August 1st, 1977. I'm 12 years old. My mom and I get home to a house full of people who inform us that my father had been killed in a helicopter crash while working for NBC television. At that time, that's when the light bulb goes on. That's when I realized not everybody's dad gets shot down or buried at Arlington Cemetery, things like this.
Right.
So throughout high school, I was very introverted. Didn't understand why people wanted to talk to me, why the press would call the house to ask questions. But then in college, the curiosity got the best of me. I wanted to find out more about my father. He wasn't around to answer my questions. So I had to find out through my mom and my sister, my aunts and uncles, reading, research, his friends, his colleagues who flew with him. So I was started to do this research, not to vindicate my father, not to do anything like that, but to find out the truth so I knew how to answer questions. And as a result of that research, I ended up founding the Cold War Museum to honor Cold War veterans, preserve Cold War history, and educate kids about the time period.
Right.
And also along the way, helping to set the record straight and getting my father acknowledged as a hero to our country through the U.S. government, the CIA, and the Air Force.
That's amazing. Now, I know that you mentioned the Cold War Museum. Where is that? Can you talk to us a little bit
sure.
about where it is? We have many people that travel here to Sun and Fun. They travel all over the U.S. How do they go to see that? Where do they go to see that?
Well,
Where?
there are two ways. The
Okay.
physical location is Vint Hill, Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C., about 40 miles.
Okay.
West out 66 near Gainesville, if your audience knows the location there. So that's where the
You
physical
say
location
Gainesville,
is.
we think Gators here.
No,
but-
not Florida. Gainesville, Virginia.
Right, okay.
40 miles from Washington, D.C.
Okay.
More information online, coldwar.org. Coldwar.org.
War.org. Now, will that link take them to the museum?
Correct.
Okay, and talk to us a little bit about, just like we have the Aerospace Center here, talk to us a little bit about some of the highlights of that museum. What did you put in there?
Oh my gosh, well, yes.
Yeah, I've got to ask. I'm very interested.
My business plan in 1996 said I'd be done in 3 years, $3 million to fundraise, shouldn't be that difficult. 15 years later, we finally got brick and mortar. And in that 15-year time period, we started to collect Cold War artifacts. 1996, very easy to find Cold War artifacts. 2016, not so easy to find Cold War artifacts now. So we have one of the largest collections currently of civil defense items, from the duck and cover drills, the desks, things like that, because we saved and salvaged the civil defense headquarters for Washington, D.C. We have a Cuban Missile Crisis display that would be big enough to put in this room. It complete with a Soviet SA-2 missile, 40-foot long, demilled, same type that shot down my father, same type that were in Cuba in 1962. We have items from the former Soviet Union, the former East Germany, flags, banners, regalia, uniforms, weapons, and different things that were used throughout the Cold War. We have items from the Bay of Pigs, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the U-2 incident, SR-71, Corona satellite, and other platforms that were used for overhead reconnaissance during this time period. So we have a very, very large and eclectic collection. In the museum, there's only 2,000 square feet, and then another...
It's packed.
It's packed, and another 2,000 square feet of storage that is full. And we are currently in the process of looking into a capital campaign, looking to grow on site, reaching out to donors and companies who would like to sponsor our endeavors to educate kids, honor our veterans, and make sure that this history is preserved.
That is amazing. Now, I know in the briefing, you've brought some things with you, but I must ask you, you have a coin that's sitting here, but I don't think I want that coin, Gary. Can you tell us about this? Because it caught my eye, and I thought, now what on earth is that?
Well, this is a hollowed out silver dollar. It's a spy coin. It opens up to reveal a secret compartment. It takes 2 coins to make one. It's not demilled, what do you call it, engineered. It's beveled out, and then it fits within each other to hide microfilm, microfiche, or a secret message. My father, on his May 1st mission, carried a similar coin, not quite like this, but it concealed a poison-tipped needle. The pilots were given the option of taking the suicide device with them in the event of torture. It was to be used to alleviate the pain and suffering. Optional device to take, optional device to use at the pilot's discretion in the event of torture. In addition, Rudolph Abel, who my father was exchanged for, got caught because of a hollowed out nickel. And the nickel contained some microfiche and microfilm that was accidentally given to a paper boy. The paper boy dropped it, it opened up. The dad said, "What's this?" Contacted the police. They contacted the FBI. FBI said, "Oh, we've got a spy among us." 2 years later, Rudolph Abel was caught. So I now take these coins around to my lectures and different venues and sell them where I go. Basically, it's gas money to get back and forth.
That's awesome. Now, you also have, you've got a book, and and thank you for sharing that. That is awesome. You've got a couple of books with you, and the one is your father's book, Operation Overflight.
Correct.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that? And then you've got another one that's Strangers on a Bridge. Will you talk to us a little bit about these books? And the other thing I'm interested in for our Florida Aviation Network and for all of the people at Sun and Fun, can we buy these here? Do you? And I want you to talk a little bit about that. So what are the books that you have?
Well, this book here, Operation Overflight, was written by my father in 1970. It's his account, first-hand account of the U-2 incident. And over the last, how many years now? 55 plus years since the U-2 incident happened, and 40 plus years since the book was published, everything in the book that my father wrote about has been shown to be true. At first, when he wrote about the book, they were saying, "Oh no, he's embellishing or he's exaggerating. He's not telling it like it was." But now, after declassified files have come to surface, everything he said is accurate in this book. It talks about his training, his recruitment, what it was like to fly in the U-2, what it was like to be shot down, the incident when he was bailing out and parachuting to the ground, and how he couldn't hit the destruct button, why he decided not to take his life. He wasn't being tortured. Up through the imprisonment, the interrogations, the trial, the sentencing, the coming home at the Glenacre Bridge, and how he was received upon his return home. So this is all outlined in my father's book.
In essence, this is the real story of Bridge of Spies. This is your father's account.
Correct. Now, the Bridge of Spies is not based on any one book. It's based on the historical record, Dad's book, as well as this book here, which is called Strangers on a Bridge. This is written by James Donovan, who's the attorney who is highlighted in the movie Bridge of Spies. Donovan represented Rudolph Abel as his defense attorney when he was on trial. Then Donovan went on to exchange or negotiate the exchange between my father and Rudolph Abel at the Glenacre Bridge in '62. So this book was written by James Donovan in 1965. It's his first-hand account of the Abel trial and the prisoner exchange for my father. And then this was republished this year really last year, by the granddaughter of Donovan. So I helped to publish this book with her, and I wrote a little thing, best book ever. So that's why I can bring these around to sell them and autograph them and things like that. But we do have them available here at the museum today and tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll be here all day today until 4 p.m.
I was just going to ask, because I know that you're here, and I believe that I've seen, and you told me in the briefing, you are actually doing presentations where
Correct.
people that are here can come and actually hear your story,
Right.
not just through Florida Aviation Network, but they can come touch, see, feel you, and get your autograph if they want.
they'd
Do
like.
you do autographs?
I do autographs,
okay.
but it's really Dad's autograph they want.
Right.
And so I'm an autograph collector, as we talked about earlier.
Yes.
And I actually have found a bunch of my father's signed checks. So if there are autograph collectors out here that would like my dad's signature, I have some available for purchase here today, as well as the books, as well as the hollowed out spy coins.
Amazing.
In addition, at 12 noon today and tomorrow at the
Okay.
museum, I'll be giving a lecture
Okay.
about 1 hour about the U2 incident, the movie, what I've done to set the record straight and dispel the misinformation.
That is amazing. Now, you talked to me a little bit. We found that we had in our brief conversation, we have something in common, Flint, Michigan,
Right.
although neither one of us will drink the water there, but that's a whole other story, Gary. But what did you just do? There's a wonderful museum there called the Sloan Museum, and I understand you talked about a traveling exhibit. What is that? Is that tied to the Cold War Museum? What are you doing with that exhibit?
Right.
And where is it going next? And where are you going next? Because it sounds to me that anyone would be honored to have you at their venue. So can you talk a little bit about that exhibit and what are you doing with that?
Right. Well, the mobile exhibit on the U2 incident was the catalyst back in 1996 to create the Cold War Museum. It was a way for me to take this mobile exhibit with artifacts associated with the U2 incident belonging to my father on display at various museums. Originally, the very first showing was at the NRO, the National Reconnaissance Office. It was then shown at the CIA headquarters. It was then shown at the National War College in Washington, D.C., and this is like in the mid-90s.
Right.
Then it went to the Air Force Museum, the SAC Museum, the California Aviation Museum, the Florida International Museum in Tampa at the time.
Right.
It's been around the country. It's been at Oshkosh. It's been in Berlin, Germany. It's been throughout the United States. It's comprised of artifacts belonging to my father, high school and college yearbook, photographs, family photographs, one of his pressure suits that he wore as a U-2 pilot, artifacts, little, what do you call it, keepsakes, tchotchkes that he brought home from the Soviet Union with him, letters that he wrote to and from prison when he was there, as well as other artifacts and photos and mementos that talk about my father, his life, and the U-2 incident. So this exhibit is currently not on display. I am looking for other venues. They can find out more about it at garypowers.com or coldwar.org.
Okay, garypowers.com, coldwar.org.
Correct.
And what do people do? I mean, it sounds like, if I may put a shameless plug in for Sun and Fun, that we need it here next year.
Yes.
So I'm going to put, as
Good
Florida
plug.
Aviation, I'm going to put that plug in
Good
that
plug.
we need it here next year, because I'm thinking about all of our students at the
Right.
Central Florida Aerospace Academy. Not only are we focused on safety and aviation, but the history and academics, and they need to see that.
Yes.
I mean, I want my own children to
Good.
see that. So let me ask you, so you've got garypowers.com.
Yep.
And what was the other one? It was coldwar.org.
Correct.
Now, what do you do? I must ask you this. What do you do on a daily basis?
Right, sure.
How long are you here? And do you just travel around? Do you talk about this? Is this your life's work?
Right.
What do you do? Because you sound like such a wonderful advocate for children, for history,
Thank you.
for aviation, for the military.
Yes.
So what do you do in your real life,
Right.
Gary? May I
Yeah,
ask?
what
Yes.
pays the bills?
Exactly. Okay, yes, there you go. Right to the point.
I am, my master's degree is in public administration, nonprofit management. For the majority of my adult life, I have volunteered for, worked for, or led nonprofits, museums, chambers of commerce, associations. I am currently the president for the Tysons Regional Chamber of Commerce in Northern Virginia. Tysons Corner, Virginia is the 4th largest business district on the East Coast after New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C. It has some 28 million square feet of office space. So here I am in my suit on a daily basis up in Northern Virginia, business advocacy, membership relations, community outreach. I help to put together a 5K annual fun run, charity run for different charities in the area.
Okay.
I do a government contracting conference on cybersecurity in October. We do
huge.
monthly mixers, monthly events, membership advocacy, anything I can do to help connect members together to foster business relationships.
Awesome. That is great. And you mentioned, now the 5K race is, I believe you told me, April 24th.
Correct.
And let me ask you, if there, because we have people that are here from all over the United States, and really Sun and Fun, we've got them here from all over the
Everywhere.
world. And it's not just aviation enthusiasts, we've got business individuals, we've got all walks of life are here. And we said it before, I said it on air, from age 1 to 101.
Yep.
If anyone is interested in that area, may they contact
Oh, yes.
you? Are you open to that? And let me ask you a question. I know that's how you pay the bills.
Right.
Are you available? Do you still
Yes.
travel? Obviously, you're here today,
Right.
but if anyone is interested across the nation in having you talk to their groups, maybe a veterans group, etc., are you open to that? How do they get in contact with you, Gary, to do that?
Sure.
Because you are so extraordinary, and
Thank
what
you.
a wonderful story. Your father is a real American hero, and I'm so honored to have met you. I get goosebumps.
Thank you.
Honored because I feel like I'm touching history, and it's fabulous. How do they get in touch with you to get you there? You're an extraordinary teacher.
Well, thank
Again.
you. I've been lecturing for over 20 plus years. When I first started to lecture, I started to go to high schools in Fairfax County. 9 times out of 10, I'd walk into a classroom, get blank stares. The kids thought I was there to talk about the U2 rock band. And so this was the catalyst.
Different you too.
Yep. This was the
Okay.
catalyst as to why I thought it was so important to create the Cold War Museum, to
Yes.
educate these kids because they didn't know anything about it. In regards to speaking venues, I'm always looking for speaking venues. They can contact me through coldwar.org or garypowers.com
Okay.
or through the Tyson's Chamber of Commerce in
Okay.
Tyson's Corner, Virginia. Primarily, since I now have a full-time commitment with my job,
Right.
lectures are primarily on weekends or on certain times of the year where my schedule will permit.
Okay.
And so I would need to have an honorarium and stipend for travel expenses, things like that. But I will work with anybody's budget to make sure that's a win-win for all concerned.
That's awesome. Now I have a question, because obviously we're very closely tied to AirVenture and
Yes.
Oshkosh. Absolutely, so we support each other
Yep.
in that way. Are you going to be going to AirVenture this year? Will you be there? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure.
So anyone that might be out there that's missing you today and won't get a chance to get your autograph and talk to you firsthand or get some of the memorabilia, buy the books, etc., can they meet you in Wisconsin?
Okay, possibly.
Okay.
I've been at Oshkosh the last 3 years in a row.
Okay.
I've given lectures there every day while I've been there at one of the forums. I had the mobile exhibit on the U2 incident there, I want to say 2010, for the 50th anniversary. I am working with one of the museum curators now to see if I'm going to go back up this year.
Okay.
I've explained that my time commitment is such that I can't just take the full week.
Right.
And that I would need help to get up there for the weekend or the Thursday through Sunday program.
Okay.
So as soon as I hear if that's going to happen, I'll do a Facebook post and let people know about that.
Okay.
I'd love to go again, but I have to make sure it's confirmed on their end before I say I can go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, one of the things that you mentioned that I'm really very excited about, and this was interesting just in our conversation, and I know we've spoken a lot about your father, certainly his representation as a hero, as our military, and this year we're honoring all branches of the military at the 42nd, Sun and Fun. But you have a beautiful heart for advocacy
Thank
and
you.
care and reaching out to people. You told me a little bit about your mother.
Mm-hmm.
And this ties into your autograph collection.
Oh,
And how did that start? And I think that our viewers would really be interested to hear this story, because
Sure.
you've got your father's spirit and your mother's
Thank
heart
you.
for care and that generosity. So tell me a little bit about, I think you told me they were book affairs.
Yes, yes,
And that started your collection?
correct.
How did that work?
Well, my mother, after my father's death, and even before he died, was a volunteer for Hawthorne Community Hospital in LA, California. And they developed this one-day event that would be hosted in the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, downtown Beverly Hills, where they would invite authors from around the world, Vincent Price, Tommy Lasorda, Ray Bradbury, and other people like that who would write books and then come in and sign them. So tickets would be $50 each. They would include a brunch, and then the people who attended the event could buy these books and get them autographed. So from a very young age, about 10 years old, I started to help out behind the scenes, set up events, set up activities. That's why I have a good knack for how to do it for chambers of commerce and associations now. But it also got me hooked on autograph collecting. And so I've been collecting autographs now for, gosh, I'm 50, so about 40 plus years. And my collection is very eclectic. It's not just one genre.
Okay, you know I was going to ask you. I've got to find out. So tell us a few of the autographs that you have. I want to know writers. And of course, I am an astronaut.
Yes.
You know, too old to be an astronaut, so an astronaut. Any astronauts? And what about pilots? So I have to ask you, tell me a little bit about that collection.
No, aviation-wise, I've got an assortment of astronaut autographs. Anything from, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget them all the names now.
I'm sorry, I put you on the spot. It's not on the paper, Gary. Leave it to the interviewer.
An assortment of astronauts, SR-71 pilots, U-2 pilots. I've got actors from the movie industry. I've got authors such as Ray Bradbury, Robert C. Clark, Arthur C. Clarke, as well as Tom Clancy, Bob Hope, Tommy Lasorda. I'm just trying to go through my mind and my library now what I have on the bookshelf. John Jakes and other, Louis L'Amour, very well-to-do Western author. So this is just people I've met over my life and or found through eBay or through trading autographs with other people who collect.
Right. That's awesome. And I want to go back because you said that today you're going to be here at the Florida Air Museum, today and tomorrow.
Correct.
Okay, and you will be here, Central, at the Florida. You will be actually in the museum, so at the Aerospace Center, you'll be here talking at noon.
Correct.
After that, do you have a booth? Do you have a table? Talk to us, because you mentioned that they can buy books, the coins, which are really cool. I want one, that's very cool.
Sure.
And also, you brought your own memorabilia to share in honor and memory of your father. You said checks and some things that people. Where are you going to be located afterwards? Are you here before your talk?
Yes.
After your talk? Where can people find you?
Well, Lori, I'm here today until 4 p.m. at the museum.
Perfect.
I'll be giving a lecture at 12 noon for about 1 hour about the U-2 incident, my father, what he'd gone through. After that, I will be at a table in the museum with books, the two books I showed earlier, the hollowed out spy coins, and checks that were signed by my father. I found a stash of them. Since I'm an autograph collector, I know other people also collect autographs, so I figured I'd come down and share them with people who have an interest. So I'll be here today and tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be here from about 9 a.m. till approximately 1 to 1:30 p.m. after my lecture. Then I start my drive home to Virginia.
All right, to go back to the day job.
Correct.
Gary Powers, I am honored.
Thank you, Lori.
It is
nice to
such
meet
a pleasure to meet you.
Good.
And thank you for sharing your story, sharing your father's story, and sharing your family with all of us. We could not ask for better, and I absolutely believe we need that traveling exhibit here next year. So we're putting in a good word right now, Gary, for Sun and Fun.
Where's Rob Williams? We got to get him.
A shout out to you, Rob.
we got to get the exhibit here.
Absolutely. Well, Gary, it is an honor and a pleasure.
Great to meet you.
And the websites again are coldwar.org as well as garypowers.com if they need to get in touch with you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is such a pleasure to be here today with Gary Powers. My name is Lori Bradner. I'm with the Florida Aviation Network. We invite you to please come to the Aerospace Center of Discovery. Please come at noon. It's almost time. You've got a half an hour. Please come see Gary Powers. I know you will not be disappointed. You can buy his books and the coins, and please come and see it. Once again, this is Lori Bradner with the Florida Aviation Network. We will see you here.